Walk through Scandinavia today, and you will still find wooden churches, boathouses, storehouses, and structural beams that were cut, shaped, and set in place nearly 1,000 years ago. These are not museum pieces preserved behind glass. Many stood in open air, soaked by rain, battered by wind, and frozen through endless winters. Modern pressure-treated lumber often fails in a fraction of that time. The uncomfortable truth is that Viking builders understood wood better than we do today. They did not rely on chemicals, plastics, or synthetic sealants. They relied on biology, fire, oils, and intelligent design. If you care about traditional craftsmanship, historical survival techniques, or building things that actually last, what you're about to learn is not optional knowledge. It is foundational. And once you see how they did it, you will understand why so much of what we build today quietly rots from the inside out. The Vikings understood that rot begins before construction ever starts. The first secret was not a treatment at all, but timing. Viking builders cut trees in late autumn or deep winter when sap content was at its lowest. Less sap meant less internal moisture, fewer sugars for fungi, and dramatically reduced insect attraction. This alone extended the life of a beam by decades. A modern survivalist or homesteader can apply this immediately by felling trees only during dormant seasons and avoiding spring or summer cuts entirely when long-term durability matters. After cutting, the wood was never rushed into use. Logs and planks were air-seasoned slowly, often under shelter but fully exposed to wind. Rapid kiln drying did not exist, but the slow drying process prevented internal cracking and preserved natural resins that act as built-in preservatives. If you are building a shed, cabin or fence today, patience at this stage matters more than any store-bought treatment you could apply later. Fire was used not to destroy wood, but to armor it. One of the most effective Viking preservation techniques was surface charring. Posts that touched the ground, beams exposed to weather, and ship planks were lightly burned until the outer layer carbonized. This created a barrier that insects could not digest and fungi could not penetrate easily. The Japanese later formalized this technique, but the Vikings used it centuries earlier for the same reason. Fire kills organic threats and seals the surface. A practical modern application is simple. If you are setting wooden posts into soil, lightly char the buried portion until it blackens, then brush off loose ash. This alone can double or triple the lifespan of a post without chemicals, especially when combined with proper drainage. Pine tar was the lifeblood of Viking wood preservation. The most powerful Viking method was pine tar, produced by slowly heating resin-rich pine roots and wood in low oxygen pits. This was not paint or varnish. It was a living substance that penetrated deep into the grain, repelled water, and, remained flexible in freezing temperatures. Pine tar sealed longships, roof shingles, walls, and tools. It did not trap moisture inside the wood. It allowed the wood to breathe while shedding rain. To apply this today, traditional pine tar can still be sourced or made. Warm it gently until it flows, then brush it onto dry wood in thin layers. For outdoor structures, multiple coats over several days were common. Mixing pine tar with boiled linseed oil improves penetration, a method documented in later Norse and medieval sources. This blend remains one of the most effective natural wood preservatives ever used. Iron and tannin reactions created invisible protection. Viking builders unintentionally used chemistry to their advantage. Oak and other tannin-rich woods react with iron to form iron tannate, a compound resistant to decay. Iron nails, clamps and fittings embedded in oak beams created localized zones where rot struggled to take hold. This is why oak ships and halls endured for centuries. You can replicate this effect by soaking iron scraps in water to create iron acetate and brushing it onto tannin-rich wood. The resulting darkened surface is not cosmetic. It is chemically hostile to fungi. This method was used later in medieval Europe, but its roots lie in earlier Norse construction practices. You know, design mattered as much as treatment. Viking buildings survived because water was never allowed to linger. Roofs were steep and eaves extended far beyond the walls. Structural beams were raised on stone footings rather than buried. End grain was protected, not exposed. Every design choice assumed that water was the enemy and airflow was the solution. A modern builder applying Viking logic would ensure that wood never sits directly in soil, that rain sheds quickly, and that air can circulate freely around all structural members. No coating can save wood that is poorly designed into a damp trap. So, why does this knowledge still matter now? Viking preservation methods were not primitive. They were actually optimized for real environments, limited resources, and, long timelines. In an age where supply chains can fail and synthetic treatments tend to degrade, these methods offer something rare: independence. You can preserve wood using fire, oil, patience, and, intelligent design. That is not nostalgia. That, my friends, is resilience. If this guide gave you tools you can actually use, go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more deep historical knowledge that, honestly, still works today. Share this with anyone building, restoring, or preparing for a future where durability matters again. History is only lost when we stop applying it.